What's going on, fellow troops? My name is Xavvo, and welcome to one of these kind of videos. Once again, it's the tier list time. We have not done a tier list in quite a bit, and as you can probably tell, Modern Warfare 3 is gone and past, okay? We've got Black Ops 6, so we've got to go and do what we do every single year, and that is to obviously wrap up that game by ranking their maps. There is quite a lot of maps, I have to say, inside of Modern Warfare 3. They're really the gods of I was going to say Activision, but it's really not Activision. There's no gods in Activision. They need God. Well, that fucking greed, but But yeah, the devs over at MW3, you know, the Infinity Ward knows a lot. I think it was mostly Sledgehammer, to be fair. They really blessed us with maps for this game. We're going to rank them. I've actually made my own tier list, which will be linked down below in the description as always. So it's going to have everything from 2v2 to 6v6 and even large scale for this game. Now, granted, there's only going to be one 2v2 map in this tier list because the rest of them are from MW2, and that should be stated as well that there is a lot of maps here as is, and that's not all of them. There is literally a ton of maps from MW2 that were put inside of MW3, and if you do not see it in this tier list, it's because it is not a Modern Warfare 3 map, it's a Modern Warfare 2 map. And obviously, Modern Warfare 3 is actually basically a DLC game, just put out as a full release after MW2 the next year. So it did end up having a lot of Modern Warfare 2 maps coming into it. Anyway, I've rambled on enough, so let's get straight into this. Presentation mode. So as you can see, as always, we've got God tier, amazing, pretty good, we got decent, bad, god awful, and never played it. So this is how I always do it, basically. Let's start. So the very first map we actually have, and I'm going to pull up on the side actually so I can actually see the names of these maps because I'm going to forget them without a doubt. Like, my memory's still pretty fresh on these maps because it was like October when I last played, but I still kind of forget a lot of the names. So the very first map we have is 6 Star, and man, I'm not really a fan of this map. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I probably played it a few times. 6 Star is going to go into decent. The reason I put in decent is 1, it looks very pretty. 2, it hasn't got the worst layout in the world, but there's also a bit of a problem with some of the layouts around the sides especially, and sort of like the indoor, like I think left side, it depends which way you're looking it from. This pool area is a little bit weird as well, but I do like the way it visually looks, so it is going to get the decent spot. The next one we got is Afghan, and honestly it looks very similar to a map I think we had last year. And even one in, I think, an OG card. I need to make that clear. A lot of these will be actually remastered maps from old Call of Duty games, and I never played those ones, so I probably won't know which games they were in, so I'm going to make that very clear right now. I'm not an OG. I started playing COD properly in 2017, so with this map, right, I think this was mainly, if I'm not wrong, one of those, I think you could play 6v6 on it, if I'm not wrong. It was definitely, I think, 6v6, but it was a bit more on the bigger side. It was more like a medium map. I think this one's going to go into pretty good. The plane in the middle is a nice feature. I think there was like little buildings around the outsides and some other bits that were kind of cliffed and higher up, but like I think you could get behind it. I'm going to put that one in there, and then the next one we've actually got is Airborne. Now, technically I should rank its original map, which is Terminus. That's the one. I should actually do that one first, but it's just the order it comes in, I'm afraid, guys. This is alphabetical order. So Airborne was actually like a infected fungi spore kind of version of the Terminus map, the plane one, and I have to say it was a mix of gross and also kind of cool. So I don't know, but I feel like this has to go up there in amazing. I just love this whole apocalyptic infection spread kind of like art style. I thought that was really, really cool and creative, and on top of that, Terminus is already a banger of a map. The next map we've got is Arena Shipment. Now, it's already a shipment map. Shipment, in my opinion, if you've seen over the years, it's a god tier map. It ends up in every game, and this one is just so clean as well, so it's going up there. Absolutely god tier. I love shipment maps, especially when they make them simplistic, less complicated, making it, you know, easier for you to see people. This one was good at that. A lot of shipment maps over the years haven't been so great. They've had issues with lighting or players blending in too much, but this one actually works. The next map we have is Bait. I remember mainly playing this map for like the fish faction. Was it fish faction? It was the one where you had to like kill people with spears and shit. I think something like that anyway. It was a bit goofy. It was nice, but I think, again, it's really only going to end up in pretty good. The next one we've got is Bitment, so it's like a 8-bit styled shipment map, and we're just going to put it up there. you know, the bitment stuff, it's a hit or miss. Sometimes it can make the map look uglier, but I don't know, it still works as a great map. So, you know, and I gotta give credit for the 8-bit stuff. Now we've got Bitvella. It's actually an 8-bit version or spin on Favela, and you'd be surprised, I actually think this one deserves to go up in amazing. Now, the reason actually is the original Favela map, as much as it's, you know, a classic and all that, and people really like it, the Favela map, it's just so difficult to see people on that map. It's not even funny. Like, the amount of times I have been one-shotted out of thin air, and I didn't even see where the player is shooting me from. That happens way too much on normal Favela. The Bitment version, the Bitvella version, actually made things a lot less, like, super textured, if that makes sense. Everything was a lot more washed out in a cartoony style, and it made people actually easier to see, because your player isn't actually 8-bit when you're playing on these maps. You only have an 8-bit head, from what I can remember, from the 8-bit party mode you'd play in. The next one we got is Cell Ship, God tier. Obviously, it's Shipment, and it's in a cel-shaded cartoon style. That thing was so beautiful. I used to play this as a replacement for Shipment most of the time, because we were waiting. I think most of us can say, as the fan base, we wanted a sunny or bright Shipment for God knows how long, and they just weren't giving it to us. So this was the first time we got some sort of daylight version of Shipment. It just so happened to be in cel shade, but it was so clear to see where everything was on this, and the whole cel-shaded stuff really gives me like Borderlands 2 style. It looked so cool. Checkpoint. Now, this is basically, I think, a section of Rebirth Island, and it was dropped as a 6v6 map. Now, I personally didn't really have a bunch of opinions on it. I played it maybe a handful of times. There was some pretty terrible areas that you could get killed on, without a doubt. Like, the sights weren't too great on this map. It was a bit too open, I think, but for me, it's just gonna go in decent. Now, the next one we've got is Das Gross, and we have got Das House following it. So Das Gross is the variant version. It's like the overgrown, I don't even know what to call it. I mean, it looks like a massive worm, like, wrapped around the map, or something weird and extraterrestrial. It's pretty weird and funky, but it looks so damn cool, and Das House is genuinely one of those God tier maps. This, God tier. We have got, yet again, another God tier making it to the top. The other one is Das House, the original. Definitely a nice rebrand to the Das House map from Vanguard. If you played that game, that's where it first appeared. And it looks really cool. Like, the whole building construction site thing, very nice. And the fact that it's daylight, the original Das House on Vanguard was actually nighttime. So this one was a lot clearer to see where people were in general. And it wasn't half as sweaty as Vanguard was. That was like a bomb fest from what I can remember. But this thing was actually pretty damn nice. So I think we're going to put this one, guys, right up there in God tier. Has to join its friend up there at the top. The next one we've got is Departures. Yeah, Departures, I don't really think I played a whole lot of this. This was one of those maps which was okay for the most part, but I think, again, it's kind of got the same caliber to it as Bait, basically an Afghan. Derail. Yeah, that one was real bad. Actually, you know what? It's going worse than that. God awful. I hated this map. Derail had literally the longest space between anything. You could be running anywhere on this map. You were guaranteed going to get sniped. I swear to God, I was running around on Derail for like a good few minutes and wasn't finding anybody. And the only people I would run into were camping inside of the middle building. It is atrocious just how bad this map is. I don't know who the fuck made the Derail map, but it is not getting any positive praise from me. Like, it just sucks. The only time you'd ever rarely catch me on this map was if I really desperately needed long shots and I was using a sniper rifle. But anyway, on a positive flip side, we have the drive-through. Now, this was like a Halloween spooky map that dropped around Season 6, and this thing, God tier. I loved this map. Like, genuinely, this map was so refreshing. It had the eeriness. It was very cool. And also, you just felt like the layout was actually easy to learn. And you knew generally where the sites were going to be, the hotspots of where people will spawn and target the most. It's very simple and small. Now, whilst it was dark, for sure, you could definitely get over that pretty quickly if you just kind of got through a bunch of matches. You'd eventually learn how to adapt to see people on this map. These were the kind of maps I wanted to see more of in this game. A completely different ball game compared to Derail. Next one we have is Emergency. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to put it in bad because it's definitely not bad, but it's just decent. Like, I didn't want to play on this map most of the time. The next one we got is Estate. Okay, this one, I don't think it's pushing god-awful. Like, it can be playable, but it's bad. I think most people can agree on that. Like, it doesn't matter how you spin it, whether you think it's completely atrocious or you think it's kind of bad. It's just bad. Who cares if it was from old COD? It doesn't immediately mean, oh, it's old, so that means it's good now. Like, just had way too many high spots and not enough even playing field. It made it very difficult for you to fight other people when they were, like, in a clearly higher advantage inside the building. Ordinary favela. For me, that is just dropping into decent. If you're really gloating about this, it's probably just the nostalgia. It's the rose-tinted glasses getting in the way of your vision. The next one we have is Get High. So this was, like, from the weed event or something. It was like a limited time thing. They turned it into a map. It was like the castle part at the top of the obstacle course, if you remember that mode. Super fun. I think this was genuinely up there in amazing. Yeah, it was a very refreshing change to the game to have a obstacle course vaporwave style map, and I just loved it. Like, there was something about this that just felt simple to navigate, and I really thought it was a cool spin on Call of Duty for once. Ghost Ship. This was the Halloween variant to Shipment. God tier. Absolute banger of a map. This map, I fell in love with it. I was just so in love with this part of the game, as you usually are every year. It's like the Season 6 Halloween drops. The game actually feels fully developed. It feels actually the most fun. And, you know, they're about to abandon it in about a few months. It was that period, you know, obviously. But I love Halloween. I'm a massive Halloween person. And this map just absolutely did it for me. It had the grass, which made it feel kind of like classic Shipment. And it also was just spooky and also very pretty as well. I really liked the way this map did Shipment. If anything, it's on the upper echelon of God tier. It's like up there with the arena Shipment, these two, and then the cell ship I think would all be there if there was one, and these would be the lower God tier. But again, all God tier maps up there. Greece. Yeah. For me, Greece was a bad map. I did not like this map. What I had against this was actually just the layout was pretty damn hard to see where people were from a distance, and I was skipping this shit. Something about this map, the way it fundamentally just kind of was laid out, and all these different like walls and other places, I couldn't get behind it personally. Next one we got is Grime, based in my home country, the UK. It looks miserable as fuck. It actually had a fairly okay layout. Like, I think, to be fair though, it's kind of on par with Greece. It kind of has a weird layout. Like, you could pick people off if you were lucky in certain areas, but you would need a scope if you were trying to shoot people from one high spot to like a window down the middle, because literally the visibility was kind of shit on that as well. But I'm gonna put it in decent for the fact that the art style was very cool and not all of it was hard to get around. It was mainly just the middle bit where the visibility would be a bit bad at longer ranges. But the next one we got is Grow House. Now, I believe this was an original, right? This was original from one of the older games, and I actually really liked it. I can see why they brought this one back. I think we saw an equivalent to this, and I think they call it like Sphere or something in Vanguard. It's the same thing, basically. It's definitely above these ones, for sure. I think it's going to go in amazing. It's got a very replayable feeling to it. Like, you just know there's the sides, there's little vents that kind of weave down into the underground, there's the up and the back parts which can go underground as well. You can choose which way you want to play, underground or around the sides. I really like that, and I thought that was super cool about that map. Now, the next one we've got is Hangover. This one was actually a Christmas version of High Rise, I believe, that came out for Christmas time when the game came out. I loved it. I loved playing under the disco ball. That thing's going in God tier, man. That shit was so nice. The Christmassy feeling was really there for that map. The next one we have is the actual high-rise map. For me, it goes in... Oof, amazing. Okay, amazing. If you didn't want to get sniped, you would have to go around the sides. So you had to play and pick your cards accordingly. And it wasn't like you were going to get bummed if you went anywhere on the map. Like, you could go underground, you could go other ways to avoid gunfights, you know, long-range ones. So it was nice. And I think the sunrise or sunset effect and the distant cities looked really, really cool for this map. Incline. You know, counter to its appearance, it's actually not a massive snow map like you would have seen in like Vanguard or something like that, or MW2. It actually had a fairly decent layout, and I think this was basically the summit of this game. If you know Summit, it's like one of the classic Treyarch maps that you see in a lot of Black Ops games. It had that feeling to it, the kind of snowy mountain with like the small map, everything's kind of simply laned around. I think this, for me personally, was actually up there in pretty good. Next one we've got is Ink House. It was like the version of Stash Stash House, I believe, but like in cell shaded. And that is amazing. I believe the original Stash House map in general was inspired by Breaking Bad, if I'm not wrong, which is really cool, actually. I like the inspiration there with like the pizza on the roof and stuff like that. I think that's what made me realize it was from that. The layout of it's really nice. The cell shaded, again, helps with visibility, and it just looks super cool as well. Next one we have, I was originally going to leave out because technically it was an MW2 map, but I don't think I ranked it in MW2's map ranking video for whatever reason. I don't know why I didn't, but it should have technically been in there, and I'm not too sure. I think you could play on it 6v6, but it was the Invasion map, and for Invasion, with me, I feel like it's going to just go indecent. There was nothing really crazy to it. It was all right. Some bits were a bit shit, like some areas of the map, but I actually kind of think it worked. I haven't got a ton to say about it. Karachi, that one, I was not a huge fan of that one. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like at the very most, it's just going indecent. Levin Resort. Never played it. This actually... Technically, I have played it if you're counting, like, Zombies, because Zombies has the entire Urzikstan map, and that was a section of Urzikstan, but I never had opinions on it. Whenever I was playing on Urzikstan and Zombies, I was just thinking, yeah, I'm at this place, or I'm at this place. Like, I knew the areas of the map. I'd been over that map so many times, I knew every inch of it, for fuck's sake. But it wasn't anything impressive to me, and I never played it in multiplayer. I never played the sectioned off version for, like, Ground War or whatever. So, the next one is Mad Cow. It's the Halloween flooded version of the, I think, the meat map. That one actually goes in God tier. I loved the meat map in this game, and as you can see, meat's down here as well. God tier. Both of them, God tier maps, especially the Halloween one. So very interesting. We hadn't seen flooded maps since Black Ops 4. I thought that was super cool. They brought back the flooded kind of feature. Granted, you couldn't swim in it. It wasn't like throat deep or head deep. It was more like knee deep. So there wasn't any like actual swimming around in it like you would have in Black Ops 4 with flooded maps. But it definitely still was a really cool, creepy looking version. And Meat as well. A very small map. It worked so well. It was like the replacement for Shipment for a while before we actually properly got it, I believe. Most people were actually playing Meat or playing Shipment. It was like the switch between. You had the alternatives. Meat's just a small, simple map, and I loved it. So both of those are going God tier. We have a lot of God tiers today, actually. Kind of surprising. Next one is Operation Spearhead. Again, another section of Urzikstan. Never played it in Ground War. I never touched Ground War in this game. I never touched War Mode either, so I have never played it, but I know it's a section of Urzikstan. Operation Tin Man, which is a war-specific mode. Again, another section of it, but never played it, so it's going in there. Same with this one, Orlov Military Base. Yeah, we've seen it before. It's part of the map, but it's just going in there. Never played it. Now we've got Paris. Paris. Very cool style. I do like it. I like the theme. I do think it's an interesting map, but all things considered, it's only going to go into pretty good. Actually, tough one. Yeah, no, it's staying in pretty good. It had some likable spots. I think, like, the open wall parts were really cool, like, in the middle between the buildings where it was broken. I think some of the insides were a bit obnoxious. People would, like, camp in there, and you'd have to throw grenades and shit like that. You'd have to lose your morals to get people out of that building. But around the actual sides and stuff, just kind of around the back, and obviously, like, the main kind of site that I think you might be able to see right here, yeah, on this image, those were nice areas. I think they were pretty damn nice, and all things considered, again, it was a cool, creative map. So, interesting to see Paris in this game for sure. Popov Power. Yeah, another section of it that I never played in multiplayer, so it's going in there. Oh, next we've got Quarry. Yeah, Quarry. I feel like Quarry as it is, if we're going to be realistic, it's bad. It's a bad map. Like, I don't know when you'd ever want to play on Quarry as like a go-to map. It was a bit too wide, a bit too many different passages and ways of getting about, and there was also really high spots like building windows, the crane in the middle, and a lot of it was surrounded by rocks, so you were having to run around rocks and shit. Like, I don't know, I wasn't a fan of this as a map. I just thought it was a bit dull, and I was guaranteed going to skip on this shit, but yeah, it's just going in bad. It's kind of like with Greece, it's like they could be pushing decent, but just kind of boring. And yeah, the next one we actually have is Rio. Yeah, decent. I actually liked the sides. I also kind of liked the middle a bit. If you didn't really get around on it too well and you didn't quite know the sites, it might have seemed like one of those generic medium maps where you're going to get your ass whooped on, but it was actually pretty cool. And I had a lot of fun memories, I think, on this map in the early parts of the game, actually. It was very visually stunning as well. The next one we have is Rundown. Bad map. I hated Rundown. Here's the thing, right, with Rundown, there was a lot of space. So you had the buildings, you could kind of get towards those pretty simply. Then when you were beyond that point, there was this weird area between two buildings, which was very narrow. It had like a waterfall in it, I think. I'm not too sure. Like this very narrow area. Then you had these other bits you could mantle over walls, which is, I guess, kind of cool. But then everything else was kind of like within plain sight. Like someone could be right at the back of a different part of the map and they could snipe over at you from, I guess I'm going to try and explain it, from like one of these saloon areas. It was like there was a lot of areas that were set up for campers. It had a lot of vegetation at the back, again, so people could kind of blend in. I didn't like that about this map. I don't like how open and big it felt, if that makes sense. I couldn't get behind it. Like, a lot of people, I think, liked this map because I think it was a returning map, if I'm not wrong. I just didn't like it. With this one, we got Rust. God tier, obviously. Fantastic map. Love Rust, and especially in this game, looked very nice and simple. I think it was inspired by the original Rust map, so it was like a remaster. For the next one, we've got Satan's Quarry. Now, this is going to surprise you, because this is the Quarry map, but it's a hellish sort of Halloween version, and I think that actually bumps it up. I think it makes it up to at least decent, or at least pretty good. I'm not really too sure, because I feel like the Hell version makes me want to put it in pretty good, but all things considered, it's still Quarry, and it still had a bit of the bad visibility, the rocks, and all the terrible kind of layout that the other one has, obviously, because again, it's just a variant. We actually have Scrapyard, a classic, actually. Scrapyard. I would put Scrapyard, if I'm going to be very honest with you, it's like a cross between Amazing and God tier, but I think Scrapyard is on tier with Terminus. They're both amazing maps. They do have their issues occasionally, campers in windows and stuff at the back, but it's very good. And I think seeing that return, especially after MW 2019, I believe, very wholesome. I loved that map. So we've got that, and then, oh, this one, Shipmas. Oh, yeah, this was a weird rabbit hole for people who were new. They wouldn't have known this. Originally, they brought MW2's shipment from the previous year, the nighttime version, which is why it's not on here. It's a Modern Warfare 2 map. They brought that one into Modern Warfare 3. That was the shipment map. This was originally the Christmas shipment. So this was called Shipmas, as I say. This was the Shipmas snowy version with like a Aurora Borealis, or as you call it, like the Northern Lights on it and stuff, and a little Santa thing or whatever it was that would fly across the map, I think, something like that. And people really liked it. I liked it as well. The snow actually made the map more lit and easier to see people. And as a result, the original shipment, the nighttime version, was swapped out for the Christmas special one, I think a month or two later into the next year, and they replaced it as the shipment map. They just called it Shipment, even though it clearly was called Shipmas, and that's what basically happened with it, and it was really strange, but I actually really thought that was super cool, and that one's going in God tier, obviously. It's Shipment, and this was such a fantastic map. Like, this made playing Shipment way more bearable after that horrible nighttime rainy version we had from the previous year. That was really good that we managed to keep that for the next year. Next one we've got is Skid Row and Skid Grow. So Skid Grow is this one here. As you can see, it's in front of it because of alphabetical, god damn it. Skid Grow is actually like an overgrown kind of apocalyptic version of Skid Row. I got hella Last of Us vibes from this map, and I used to play this way more than the original one. Like, Skid Row itself, Skid Row, like, that one for me is mainly going in pretty good. Like, I could play it and enjoy it, but Skid Grow for me actually made it up there into God tier, actually. I thought that it was so cool. Genuinely, when I saw this map, I kind of fanboyed a bit. I was like, we got the post-apocalyptic look in COD with like overgrown plants and shit. Like, it made the map even more enjoyable than the already playable version before. Yeah, I just really liked both of those, even though, again, Skid Row itself was good to play on. It's only going in pretty good because, again, it's just one of those maps that if you don't have a lot going for it in terms of its style choices, it did have some issues, especially at the back of the map and stuff like that, but generally speaking, it worked very well. And for the next map, we've got Spore Yard. So this was the Scrapyard variant. This one for me is going in God tier. Without a doubt, it's already good, Scrapyard. This was beautiful. Attention to detail in this map that the developers put into this is amazing. Like, the glowing mushrooms, the sky, the sound effects, everything is so atmospheric. It's such a cool map. I genuinely loved what they started doing with these variants, for sure. Here we've got the original Stash House map. Of course, that one's going in amazing. Stay High. This was like a shipment version with the whole, like, Get High style to it. So Stay High, very cool, but I I don't know. Yeah, it's shipment and stuff, right? But I couldn't really stand the way it looked. I thought it was a bit ugly. All the colors. Wasn't a huge fan of it, but I think all things considered, God tier. It stood out. You could see people a lot easier on this with the color, I guess. So that's one great takeaway from it. Now, we've actually got an original here. We've got Sub-Base. This is one of the beginner maps when the game came out. Sub-Base, for a while, was my go-to map. And I feel like it has to go in pretty good because it has a nice layout. It's a medium to large map, but the layouts and the sites work very well. It isn't overly complicated. And I think there was also some cool areas where you could go up the stairs inside one of the walls and go up into a top upstairs area of one of the buildings. And not a ton of people knew about it for whatever reason. Like, they just never bothered to check for the stairway because they're too busy running past it, going through the building, and then outside, and then just either going down the alleyway or into the middle of the map. But it was really cool, and I think for a long time, that was my go-to. So I do genuinely have a lot of respect for Sub-Base. Now, we have the Sunny shipment, obviously God tier. This was what I was spending the entire year waiting for. Like, we needed the daytime shipment, and it took until the end of the game. It is depressing. I can't believe they didn't pull their pants up quicker and get their act together and add this map in, but there you go. For the next one, we got Tanked. Now, it looks cool in concept. You've got like a shark tank with a bunch of fishes in it, but that's just the middle. The outside of the map is really not good. It's going in bad. Like, Tanked, again, I want to give credit for its design, but it just sucks. The layout sucks. The outsides are way too spaced out. You can barely see people, and it's just really washy with all, like, where the players are, the sights. You don't really know where you're going to get shot from. It actually kind of promotes you to hide back and not to move a lot because you don't really know where you're going to get shot from. That was my biggest issue with Tanked. It was the outsides of the map. The inside, I would have put it in amazing for, but it's the outside that brings the whole thing down. If it was just subjected to a small 2v2 version where it's just the tanks, you know, the aquarium bit inside, it would be up there. It would generally be up there in amazing or God tier, but its general layout is so bad. So that's where that one's going. Next one is Terminal. That one is obviously going to go up there into amazing as well because Terminal is a fantastic map, and I really do genuinely believe it could be pushing on God tier because that map is so fantastic. I used it so much and it never really got boring. I'm going to be honest with you. It was so fun. Everything about it, the plane layout, the inside, the outside, to see it come back, especially as it was a classic one, it's no surprise that the fan base was happy with that one. So very nice. Now the next one we've got is Tetanus. It's a, as the name suggests, tetanus is like, you know, technically, you know, tetanus is like the infection you get from rusted metal. Well, the original map's called Rust. So there's the catch that if you couldn't piece that together yourself, if you were slower than me somehow. Well, yeah, Tetanus was a variant of Rust, and goddamn, that was a God tier map. Holy fuck. Like, Rust is an amazing map, but this thing was so insane. Again, audio design, atmospherical design with the sky. The actual map had these growing green kind of like growths or something like that, like green lights and shit around it. I was so surprised when this map came in. I was like, is that Rust? And I couldn't really catch on to it for a second. I was like, that's fucking Rust, but it looks cool. Anyway, next one is Tokyo. Oh, I remember this one. It was nighttime, but the lights really helped with it, and I thought it had a great layout. This one goes up there in amazing for sure. A visually stunning map, and it had a very nice layout to it. It actually felt similar to a map in Black Ops 4. Now, I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but there was a Japanese Tokyo-style map on Black Ops 4, and it was actually daytime, and it wasn't exactly the same thing. I don't know if you've played it before, but it was the one that had a bunch of, like, fire trucks on it and ambulances and stuff underneath the bridge and all that kind of thing. You might remember which one I'm on about, but the Tokyo aesthetic, really, really, I love it. I think it looks fabulous. So that thing's going in amazing. Next, we've got Toon Oxide, a cel-shaded version of Rust, God tier. Again, man, I just absolutely loved these versions of these original maps. Very, very cool. Yeah, also to have it at night was really nice as well. Now, we are actually, you know, this video is getting quite long, so I'm going to try and speed the fuck up here. We're like 40 minutes in. Hopefully, I'll get this down to 30 minutes. But obviously, there's a lot of maps here compared to my other tier list. Next one we had was Training Facility. This was the only 2v2 map that was actually in MW3. The other ones were MW2 maps, like Black Sai and Alley and all those kind of ones. They were actually from the previous game, if you didn't know that. So the Training Facility was the only new 2v2 map invented for this game. Oh, created, I should say. Invented sounds really mystical and massive or something, like fucking, oh, inventing a light bulb. No, invented Training Facility, you know. But this one, I actually really loved it. I think this was up there and amazing because it looks really cool. It's indoors, but it also works. Everything about the angles, the layout is fundamentally perfect. This was a gunfight map, but I would have loved to play this if it was in 6v6. It's obviously just a very small one. That's why they couldn't put it in 6v6, and I didn't find myself playing gunfight because it didn't help with camera grinding, obviously. But it was definitely amazing. Underpass. I mean, for me, it's just pushing decent. It was a bit more wide and open. There was areas that dipped lower down, like a river part, like a canal, I guess, like an empty canal that went under bridges you could go into. But if you fell into those areas, it was kind of annoying to get back out of them. And now we're getting on to the final ones. We've got Vista. I only played this a handful of times, but for me, it really wasn't anything special, but I'm going to just put it decent as well. We've got Wasteland. This one was a returning map, I believe, a remastered one. It was way too big. It was cool, some parts of it. Generally, it looked cool aesthetically, but for playing on as a map, it was bad. It was way too big. Good for sniping, but a bad map. Not going to play that in 6v6 if I got it. And then we've got Yard. We already had the quarry map with like the cranes and stuff. This was a good version of it. This one I actually could stand playing on. I think for me, it's going to go at least into decent as well. Yeah, it's not going to go any higher. So anyway, that is all of the maps in Modern Warfare 3. If you have made it this far into the video, I commend you. Thank you. Salute to you. Five times, 100 times. Thank you so much for watching this far into the video. Let me know what you think of this tier list. If you agree with it, what you disagree with, timestamp your favorite parts, timestamp the parts you disagree with. I'm really interested to hear your engagements with this. I always love to see what people think of my tier list. It actually sometimes winds people up, which is kind of funny because it is just my opinion at the end of the day. Me saying something's bad doesn't mean it is now bad, like the universe has objectively claimed it to be bad. That's my opinion. I'm just a schmoyo who uploads video. I'm a random guy. It doesn't matter what I think. Don't take this too personally, guys. But there you go. That's the tier list. So again, it's going to be linked in the description. I actually did switch to 2K 30 FPS. My camera says it's in 4K 30 FPS, so I don't know what that's about. Hopefully it doesn't look in the aftermath like super washy and filtered like the last video did. Oh, don't forget, drop a like, leave a comment, and yeah, I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys.